Welcome back to the CoDaKrew podcast. Today, we're covering match week 24 of the Premier League, and if you don't already know how this works, our current scores and scoring system are on screen now. Of course, we just saw a storybook finish to the UEFA Champions League group stages, as well as some crazy developing storylines in the Premier League, managers, upsets, etc. And so, as per usual, we're going to cover all of that and more as we preview and predict this match week, starting with Brighton vs Everton.
Yeah, Brighton's loss at Fulham is just like all I can say about it really to sum up is it's what Brighton is known for at this point. They just lose games late, right? They never quite turn their superiority into security, and so they end up as usual with another late giveaway. For long stretches, they played some of what I would say was their best football in weeks, honestly. Baleba was dominant in midfield, constantly winning loose balls, driving the team forward. Gross returned and he brought some calm circulation, smarter positioning between the lines. Of course, Mitoma's back. That's a pretty big deal for them. We remember for sure how long it took for him to actually get back to the team. But again, Brighton still have this habit of letting games hang in the air. They don't kill momentum when they're on top, and they don't always react quickly enough when the opponent shifts the tone. And so once Fulham began to push higher, Brighton again couldn't respond. They just hoped their control would hold, and it did not, unfortunately. The equalizer felt avoidable, and the late free kick concession did as well. Ultimately, like they're not being overwhelmed in these games, but they're not being ruthless. That
You
is
know,
their
you
big
know what this
issue.
reminds me of? This reminds me exactly of match week 1, Brighton vs Fulham, when they absolutely should have won, but then it was last minute and they slipped 3 points there,
It's
and
a
it's happening
repeat.
yet
It's
again.
yeah, it's all their
Yeah, I
games.
mean,
I swear.
honestly, I think a big part of it is Hertzler's system is just so high wire, so risky, right? Because you
Yeah.
basically play with no midfield, you go complete overload, and if that line breaks, if that high line breaks, you're just completely finished. And honestly, I think I've been saying this for a while. Hertzler's inability to, in my opinion at least, you know, show some adaptability, change based on who you're playing, has been a big reason why Brighton is such a streaky and inconsistent squad. And honestly, that match against Fulham should have been the bounce back. Fulham, in my opinion, have a way weaker defense, or midfield rather, than Brighton does. And they also had Sasha Lukic out in that match. And despite that, Brighton are still showing the exact same issues that I feel like we've been talking about for weeks.
It's I'm sure they'll see lots of the ball again here against Everton, so they'll get chances. But if they leave it close until the end, I'd be concerned about another come from behind win for their opponents. Now, as for Everton, I think with Leeds, we saw another example of how uneven their games have become. I mean, I think we talked about it with Villa, right? They're not great for the first half. They're good for the second half. This was kind of a similar showing for Everton. Opening 45 was flat, passive. They struggled to progress the ball cleanly. Couldn't offer much between the lines. Looked a step behind Leeds' movement the whole time, really. So for the second half, Moyes adjusts the shape, pushes the wing backs up higher, and suddenly Everton are far more aggressive in the duels and the second balls. And of course, you have to mention Tierno Barry because Everton have needed a striker who can actually score goals so badly,
Right.
and his continued emergence is huge. People have rightfully clowned him and Beto for not scoring for as long as they did. But even 2 or 3 months back when he wasn't scoring, I would say he at least had a strong presence at the front. So he could create goals, if not for himself, at least for his teammates. But that presence is only getting stronger, and he can actually score for himself now. And he's beginning to justify Moyes' confidence in him. Everton, they don't create a ton, but right now they're taking a lot more from the chances they do find. And that is important because I've talked about this is the third time now I've mentioned it, I think. Brighton's attacking waste. Everton are not wasteful in the slightest, I think. So they are, I would say, looking a lot better attacking wise than Brighton are.
Yeah, I agree. I think that has obviously been the big issue holding them back. Whether it's Beto or Tierno Barry, we have joked for a while that it doesn't matter. They are playing a man down, or they have been at least for large parts of the season. I would say the entire first half of the season. And now, as we're seeing, Jack Grealish is injured, Njai coming back from AFCON, but considering the context before that, he's had to step up. Uh, Tierno Barry, that is, and he has come up to the task. And I agree with you. He has been creating chances for Everton this entire time, we've been counting on his finishing, but he's almost kind of like this sort of Mateta-esque player where he can hold up the ball. He's great aerially. He's a aerial menace. And now he's finally doing what, Mateta is still not for Crystal Palace. Um, but yeah, anyhow, I think also, as you were talking about, Everton have finally adapted to Dewsbury Hall. I know he did come back for this match, but a big issue I was talking about in the past was because of his driftiness, losing him almost makes like the other midfielders not really know where to be, and the fact that Everton finally adjusted, the fact that David Moyes finally pushed up their fullbacks so the midfield wouldn't have to roam around so much, wouldn't have to be so exposed in transition, I think makes them a lot more solid. It makes them a lot more able to be direct when attacking without having to worry so much about transition.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much more to say about these two teams. I'm just gonna get to my call, but Brighton, I know they're still tough to beat at the Amex. I think only one team has won there all season, and even during this poor run, they've remained competitive at home. But I just find it really hard to be confident in them winning when they seem so prone to just letting games up at the very end. And Everton, meanwhile, I think they've lost 1 in 6. Barry is scoring regularly now, and Branthwaite and Dewsbury Hall are returning, which makes them far more solid. Add in the fact that the Toffees away form is actually stronger than their home form right now. Not a single away defeat since like sometime in December. I think they can easily stay in this game. Brighton will definitely allow them to stay in this game. I think a draw or a win will be in the cards for them the whole way through. But ultimately, I would say neither team seems quite reliable enough to take control for all 90 minutes. So I'm going to say it's a 1-1 draw.
I agree. I think there's just going to be one X factor who we haven't talked about yet. For some reason, he didn't play in Brighton's last match, but we know how good he can be, and it's Yankuba Minte. That guy, I mean, how many home matches has Brighton won because of Yankuba Minte earlier in the season, right? And I sort of agree with you here. I don't think Everton's going to generate a lot of chances, as we talked about before. I don't know about Brighton's finishing ability, but one of my ongoing theories about the Premier League this year, I think one of the reasons that makes our job so difficult predicting the Premier League this year is everybody is so close, and therefore home advantage is such a huge factor in determining these matches. So for me, because it's so close, I don't think this is going to be pretty low scoring, and I'm just going to give it down to like one moment of brilliance from, I'm going to say Minte. Minte's just directly out of nowhere, just like he has done so many times in the past in this season. Just out of nowhere, creates a chance, cuts in behind, shoots it. Brighton 1-0 win, probably late on in the second half.
Yeah, fair enough, fair enough. I think either way, whoever wins, it will be down to the wire for the vast majority of this match, I'm sure. Now, we have two teams on almost opposite trajectories right now. Wolves, who've been having a good run of form lately, might be worried that it's now come to an end. And meanwhile, Bournemouth, who dropped off for a while in the middle of the season, they're picking up form. So, do the Cherries keep winning here, or does the form flip again for these two?
Well, the form for both of these teams has been quite interesting as of recent. I know Wolves obviously not losing that match against Man City, but if you look beforehand, ever since they really adjusted tactically, ever since Rob Edwards faced reality and realized that this team is not good enough to compete in the Premier League, and has shifted to the low block, Wolves has looked a lot better. And I do think Bournemouth are one of these squads where they're not very consistent. As we're saying, this has been an issue for them all season. They're not good away from home at all. I think one home win this entire season, and that was back in like August or September. And so I think if you're Wolves, you're seeing a real opportunity here.
Yeah, fair enough. Though I do have an issue with Wolves. I think everything else besides this they've done lately has looked pretty competitive, but attacking wise, at least in the City game, they were impotent, completely impotent. Uh, they just did not do anything in the final third. I swear, it might have been worse than the okay. Well, it probably was worse than the Arsenal showing, you could say, because they didn't score. But in the Arsenal game, I do remember there were a lot of chances that well they were like pseudo chances, but they got cleared away in the box when someone really should have like taken a shot. They just didn't. That's what happened here. They occasionally got into the box against City, but there was never any sense that a goal was coming because they just didn't do enough in the final third. And City has a good defense, so they cleared it away. And Bournemouth is not especially stable in defense, but the way Wolves play once they get into that final third, I don't think you have to be that strong. Wolves, they just struggle to turn territory into shots and shots into goals. Too many promising moments die before they become anything concrete. And when your offense is already finding as little as they are, that lack of end product, like you're just left with nothing at the end of these games.
I actually want to push back on that a little bit. I think
Yeah.
you're not wrong. You're not. I agree with what you're saying broadly about Wolves, but their issue is I think the same issue that Burnley actually has. It's they can't break down low blocks, right? But how do you break down Bournemouth? They don't play a low block. They play a high line, and then if you put a through ball through, which is one of the things Wolves is good at offensively, that is how they actually create a lot of their chances. Finishing is a different story, but that is how they create a lot of their chances. I think that could be pretty advantageous to Wolves actually. And again, like you're right. Um, Wolves is like there are certain teams where you don't get a lot of chances. You have to create you have to create goals with the few chances you get, and those are the games that Wolves tends to struggle with. But I think Bournemouth, because of how inconsistent they've been, they can score 3 goals against Liverpool, but then just concede a complete howler against a lower mid-table team like Wolves, right? So I just don't know that the logic, the conventional theory we have on Wolves even applies in this match. And again, I feel like I say this too much, but like the home advantage is kind of throwing me off a little bit here. I really struggle to predict this match personally.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. I think Wolves can definitely impose themselves structurally. It's just like whether they're a good tactical fit or not. We've talked about their strikers, right? Like Strand Larson, we he has been ghosting for the whole season. That also goes for like Joao Gomez, Andre, etc. Um, I don't know. I don't know that I trust their offense much. But getting to Bournemouth, I do think they can definitely score. I mean, that's practically what they've been doing for all their games, right? It's like, we're just going to try and score more than you. And I think they've really shown recently that they can be very dangerous offensively. Against my team, Liverpool, they punished our mistakes ruthlessly, attacked the space with conviction. They looked very comfortable playing at speed. I mean, that's their playing style, right? So if they look comfortable doing that, that's great. Evan Nilsson's movement stretches the back lines. Jimenez brings direct running from wide areas, and the supporting cast are very quick to attack the second balls. They're good. They're really good at like letting you have the ball and just piling pressure on you. And I think if they're playing away against Wolves, who I know Wolves aren't a very high possession team, right? They might have some trouble with that, but they really don't need long possessions of spell. Long spells of possession to hurt teams. They are happiest when matches get scrappy, right? And I think they can absolutely do that here. They can give Wolves like 50% of possession, and they can absolutely find their moments for sure.
I think neither team is going to be wanting to get more possession in this match. They're going to be like fighting to give each other the ball because that has been a big part of Wolves' strategy as well. They don't want possession anymore. Um, I think that is a solid point. Wolves, if you want to break down their low block, it is the way you do it is through dynamism. It is through stretching offenses, and that's something Bournemouth is very good at. And I think it's fair to count Alex Jimenez as an X factor. Sorry to toot my own horn here, but like I wasn't wrong about Alex Jimenez. I was just early, okay? Apparently, all we had to do to see his full potential was push him up to being a winger. I guess he was offensively minded enough that this isn't all that surprising. But man, this guy's been so underrated. I feel like over the last few weeks, and so I think that's going to be a key factor. But overall, I'm just going to go to my prediction now. Personally, I think that both these teams have too many holes, and it feels like one of those funny old game sort of matches we're gonna see. Like it's almost one of these things where intuitively I want to predict a Bournemouth win, especially after that last result against Liverpool. But the Prem is gonna have some other ideas. I think I'm gonna go for 1-1 draw.
Okay, interesting. Would be good for Wolves. They're, I guess, one step closer to breaking that, or not breaking that worst ever Prem record. Yeah, I think they can absolutely score. Mateus Mane, I think, can score. I would have him finding their one goal. But I just think Bournemouth can do more. Like they have been really productive offensively as of late, like in that most recent game, which I know isn't too much to work off of, but I think that is a big improvement that they've had. Whereas a few games ago, their attack actually looked a bit stale, which is not what you want from their playing style. But again, it's improvements from them. I think if they can find the same early sharpness they showed against Liverpool, getting 2 goals early on, once again, does not feel unrealistic to me. And again, I think Mane can score. He's been consistent as of late. I just don't see Wolves doing enough. I don't see anyone scoring besides him, and I don't see him scoring more than one. So I'm going to say Bournemouth get a 2-1 win.
All right, fair enough. Well, then that moves us into two very intriguing teams, especially as of recent. Leeds against Arsenal.
Okay, well, I can safely say at this point the Leeds look like a Premier League team. They've been scrapping a lot before, but not so much in this last game. They looked really comfortable imposing themselves against Everton in the early stages. Started fast, they were moving intelligently. The 3-5-2 gives them numbers between the lines, and Aaronson's freedom to drift really helps pull defensive units apart, particularly when it's paired with some good aggressive wingback play. And I think they did all of that right against Everton. Their right side was also consistently productive, generating some high quality chances that really should have put the game to bed earlier. That is the problem, right? That they did not kill the game. But I think they can absolutely take confidence from this showing with how easily they controlled large spells away from home. I know they're not quite a Sunderland with how much their home stadium does for them, but I think that is a big deal that they were able to do what they managed to do away from home.
Oh yeah,
At
for sure.
Yeah. So I think now that they are at Ellen Road, actually, with the crowd feeding off that early pressure, assuming they can pile it on again, Leeds should absolutely believe that they can find something against Arsenal. I think that is completely reasonable with the energy that they're bringing.
Yeah, I mean, the other part of that though is Arsenal has been really slipping, and I kind of want to talk about this a little bit in our segment here. They are 4 points clear in the Premier League still technically, but as of recent, you have to say they do not look like a Premier League winning side. Um, that devastating loss to Manchester United, which I don't care if they have a new manager. You know, you can't be losing at home to United. Disappointing results against Forest. They also weren't able to beat Liverpool. A lot of question marks about this Arsenal side. So I guess I kind of want to open up the floor to you. I mean, do you think? I guess I don't really see who's a clear challenge for them in the title right now. But how secure are they in their position?
Not at the moment, no. I
Hmm.
just think they're carrying a lot of tension right now. The tension that comes with this title race that is tightening rather than loosening. Like we dropped out of it a while ago. Chelsea were hardly ever in it to begin with, and so
Yeah,
it
I mean
seems like it'll
you've
be
dropped out of the UCL race at this point. I mean
yeah, yeah,
y'all are
we're way
completely out of
gone.
the
But
conversation.
like we thought it would be a two-horse race, right? Arsenal and City. And now we've
Mhm.
added a third horse in Villa. So this title race is not getting any better for Arsenal. And their recent performances point for me to a team that is still structurally strong, but they are really searching for composure when games demand it. They do not have that right now. Against Man U, they began with authority. They circulated the ball well, strong possession, strong passing, lots of good shots. But they took a lead and then they got anxious. Less possession, more inconsistent spacing, and their pass success rate dropped off a cliff, which eventually led to Zubamendi's back pass to Mbeumo to give Man U the equalizer, and their passing only got worse after that. Only got worse after halftime. They just could not handle the pressure that Man U was putting on them. They could not hold on to their lead, and Leeds will put that same pressure on them with intensity throughout the early game and a hunger for goals with a high volume of shots to boot. So Arsenal, once they hopefully take their lead, have to be able to keep control and slow the game down. The tools are absolutely there to do it. Obviously, they've got a great lineup. Rice, Zubamendi to manage the central spaces, Odegaard to reconnect the phases, Saka to stretch leads horizontally. But if they crack under stress once they find their first goal, that none of that means anything. Their strength of roster means nothing. And if Arsenal drop points here, ultimately, it won't be for a great performance from Leeds. It's going to be a break in Arsenal's own mentality. That's what's going to do it.
I think so. I think it will partially be from a great performance from Leeds because I will say they were at one point looking like they were going to fall into relegation, and now, I mean, ever since
Yeah,
that
they look
tactical
confident.
switch,
Yeah.
Every game we talk about, because it's almost kind of sort of surreal. We talk about a good performance from the midfield, from the fullbacks, but like they've just been doing this every match for 2 months now. At some point, we just have to say, yeah, this is just what Leeds are. Like you said earlier, they are playing like a Premier League team. They are a Premier League team. I don't see them going back down at this point, to be honest. Even though West Ham has picked up form, I think are West Ham on like wins in a row right now, or
I
something
think
like
so.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, even despite that, Leeds are still holding strong, which I think is quite meaningful. But on to Arsenal, I mean, two things. Like, one is the dichotomy between the Premier League and the Champions League for me. This is, I mean, part of this you can kind of chalk up to like the stereotype of, oh, the Premier League is just so much better than everybody else. Tottenham finished fourth in the UCL group stages, and they're like fucking 14th in the Premier League or some shit. Like, yeah, I mean, it speaks volumes there. Arsenal, perfect record, I think, right? 8 wins in the 8 group stage matches, and they're struggling to. They can't beat United. They can't beat Nottingham. I think, did they play Nottingham at home, or no? That was away. But still, you get what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say. Um, I'm very confused about the squad. The one thing I will say, I think the biggest reason for this inconsistency right now is a lack of consistency with finishing. We saw that against, I would say, United to an extent. I actually think United deserved to win that game, but I still think Arsenal arguably should have scored a few more. We've seen that several games in the Prem, and I think we all even saw that against Carrick. Even though they did win that match, I think even like 3 goals is good, but they probably should have had more of the chance they had. So that's what I'd be worried about if I'm an Arsenal fan.
Yeah, again, I don't think Arsenal need like wholesale change here, not much adjustment in terms of players. They just need clarity with their players. If they establish tempo early, find a goal, and then they actually settle down properly, their quality should keep them ahead. That is where their strength of roster will shine. Then perhaps they can hope for that trademark 1-0 win, right? But that is the question, whether they can assert that control calmly rather than trying to force it and perhaps losing it entirely. And I think ultimately this match is going to end up being tighter than Arsenal would like. Leeds at Elland Road are good for chances. I think their recent home XG beats Arsenal's away output. And the way that Leeds start games makes it very hard for visitors to settle. They'll press, they'll stretch the pitch with the wingbacks, and I'd be surprised if they didn't land a goal. But here's the thing with Arsenal, they've shown repeatedly that they don't always need sustained attacking flow to get results. They're still set piece FC, right? Even when open play chances are limited, they're still set piece FC. They find the margins through those set pieces, pressure induced mistakes, own goals come to mind immediately, or just moments of individual quality. Give me another Declan Rice free kick, for example. The backline I know is not as airtight as it once was, so Leeds will have their moments. But Arsenal are just able to stay alive in games like this. They've managed that a bunch of times before in this season. And while they don't look especially stable in those games, they are able to come out with a win. And I think they do that here. I'm going to say they get a 2-1.
I also agree. I'm going to say a 2-1 for Arsenal. You just can't really justify Arsenal not winning this game, right? Even though they have looked shady recently. I feel like unless I'm just trying to be controversial on purpose, I can't really justify Leeds getting a result here. Yes, like we said, they're Premier League side, but there's a difference between the experience that Arsenal has. They've been here before. There have been moments in the season where they've looked like this, but they've always been able to bounce back. They're still first by a decent margin, not a very comfortable, but a decent margin. And there's a reason for that at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah. I think they're not gonna. Well, not that they lose their lead here, anyways. But I don't think it's gonna get any smaller from this particular match. Now, like with Arsenal Leeds, we've got two teams for this next match in very different parts of the table. Except, unlike the losses from those two teams, these ones should have reason to believe based on their recent wins. We have Chelsea hosting West Ham. What do you think?
Well, first off for Chelsea, Liam Rosenjord, man. I don't even know how to say his last name, but whatever. I'll figure it out eventually. He has been cooking. And the one big issue of Chelsea, I think they've always been good against good teams. The one big issue is against the mid-table. They just don't have the Premier League experience. But what I will say is since Liam has taken the helm, they've been very consistent. That's been like Chelsea's number one issue. And honestly, this is not an official prediction, but just based on that alone, they look almost destined for top four because that's something that United don't have. I mean, Michael Carrick has obviously looked amazing. He's on 2 wins against, City and Arsenal, the two best teams in the Premier League. But again, like United also has that issue, and I'm not going to trust him on that until he can prove it. While I feel like Liam has already sort of done so, and in this match, Chelsea with the momentum they're building, starting to try to build a pack into the top four, maybe even break into the top three. I don't even know if that's all that crazy, to be honest. With all the injuries that Villa has, we'll talk about them more later. But yeah, I mean, coming into this match against a West Ham side, yes, they won 2 games, but I mean, Chelsea should be looking very happy coming into this match.
Yeah, I think Rosenior has a very interesting like resume that he's coming in with, coming from Strasbourg, obviously, and I think that really does help in the mid-table games because he has experience with the mid-table team. And Chelsea's win at Selhurst Park, I mean, it really was a genuine step tactically under him because the scoreline was good, of course, but the attack looked very functional, very strong without Palmer as the central tenant, which I think is a big thing because when, like, in the past, I don't know, 2 years, when he's on, he's great and the team are great. When he's off, the team are shit, right?
Right.
But Estevao stepped into that creative vacuum. That was great. And I think just generally as well, there was a lot of balance in the offense. They progressed the ball cleanly through midfield. Enzo played higher, and he did so with purpose. Joao Pedro looked far more comfortable as the reference point, linking play, not drifting too much. The wide threats were more varied too. Neto on one side, Garnacho on the other, which made Chelsea harder to pin down. And Palmer, though he wasn't playing here, I think he had a big impact in the Napoli game now, so he's certainly not out of it either. That said, the defensive issues haven't vanished. Badia Chileno had an early lapse, and Palace had some chances before Chelsea's opener. So Chelsea are still giving, even an opponent as weak right now as Palace is, still they're getting a bit of a window. But again, like while the defense has quite a bit to prove, you really can count on goals from these guys at this point, and I think that is going to help them along a lot in this match.
I think with Chelsea's current roster, this is like the best you can expect from them. The defense, we know why their defense has not been good. It's because of all the injuries and the lack of depth. Like, you can't really, there's not so much that Liam can really do here. But offensively, I do have to say his man management has been really good. One of my biggest issues with Enzo Maresca, and by the way, I didn't advocate for him being sacked. I think that was not, I mean, it was not a sack officially, but I don't think it was a good plan at the time. What Liam has done and Enzo hasn't is his man management is amazing. Every match, I think, it felt like Chelsea were arbitrarily, for basically Maresca's entire time, and even like for years before then, just rotating players all the time with the sole goal of who can prove themselves into the starting 11, rather than, given the depth they have in a lot of positions, who is the best player against a specific opponent. And I think Chelsea has gotten a lot better at that. Like, for example, Palace is a team you have to play direct against because they have high pushing fullbacks and a very solid defensive structure. And so you put on a more aggressive or direct winger in a Steve Yao for this match, for example. I also think Enzo Fernandez, I've not wanted him to be a defensive midfielder for a while. He does have stuff to contribute offensively. So yeah, why not? I totally think it is a good idea for him to play higher more with somebody like an Andre Santos, who I have said before deserves more playing time, slotting in for defensive coverage instead. So I think what Liam has done, this Chelsea squad, like I said, it's the best, honestly, that it can be. And there are obviously issues that are going to take years to deal with through transfer windows, through progression. But the fact that they've become so much more consistent and so much more adaptive is a huge step in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, West Ham, I mean, I think maybe their form isn't quite as good as Chelsea's, but relative to what they've been doing, it's pretty strong. And I've talked about their issues before, right? The toxic atmosphere at London Stadium. They come into their games with like no belief in their ability to get points. It seems like they might have that now. Back-to-back league wins built on fast starts, ruthless wide play have dragged them back into the survival conversation. Bowen and Somerville have been relentless, and Mateus Fernandez has emerged to add creativity and some confidence as well through the middle. Nuno's tactics have been effective, the 4-4-1-1. Direct when the space opens, compact when it doesn't, and so the team just looks far more connected than it did earlier in the season. I think that's the big thing here. Chemistry. They have a lot more of it now. And I know West Ham, like Chelsea, have got defensive issues. I don't think they've kept a clean sheet anytime this season. Like, I don't think they've had one since it started in August. And since they likely will not be dominating the ball here, that does get dangerous. But if they can survive the early pressure and keep their own pressure on Chelsea in transition, I think they can expect a few decent openings. Because again, Chelsea's also got defensive issues. No doubt West Ham are at a disadvantage here, but their offensive tools are improving, and I think they can find a goal, or even two if needed, just as long as they don't go down more than that early on in the game. If they can hold on, I think they have a chance.
Yeah, but remember what happened last time they played Chelsea, right? How many was it?
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
two ain't gonna cut it.
It's
Two ain't gonna cut
true.
it.
True. I mean, do you
And
think Chelsea scored that much again?
I'm not saying 5, no, but well, I could see it honestly. It could happen. Is that even that crazy for the way Chelsea have been playing recently?
No, not
And for
unreasonable.
West Ham's lack of defensive quality? Yeah, maybe. But yes, I do think Chelsea are going to dominate and they're going to score a lot of goals in this match. I will just say my prediction is a 3-1. I do think West Ham's offense has been improving, but it's just a terrible matchup for them, to be completely honest. So, yeah, I don't see, based on how Chelsea has played against mid-table teams recently, I don't see how they slip up here.
Yeah. I think West Ham, they finally look like a team that believes that they can hurt other teams again. They're not showing up and immediately playing flat or passive. Like I know they did that one time against City, where they just got scored on immediately, right? I don't think that's going to happen here. But belief doesn't fix their structural problems, and the defensive side is just still far too exposed. At home, Chelsea, they can generate pressure quickly, stretch teams wide. I think they can find a goal relatively early on, maybe even two, before West Ham can properly settle. And yeah, once that gap opens, West Ham can chase to score, and they probably will because they've been scoring consistently enough to believe that they can. But I don't think they can claw back from a 2-goal deficit. If Chelsea manage to score too early, I think that's the game gone. And I think even they can potentially find a third to seal it. So I'm going to say both teams have defensive problems. Chelsea are just a lot better going the other way at home, anyways, I'd expect them to be. And so it's going to be a 3-1 for me as well.
All right, fair enough. Maybe I should have said 5-1 then, just for differentiation at this point. But that being said, we're going to go now to two teams where I feel like there's so much you could reasonably say for these two squads that surely we don't have the same
about
picture.
one of them. I have a lot to say.
Oh, I know you do. I know you do.
Okay.
Yeah, well, let's get started. Liverpool vs Newcastle. Your squad.
Yeah, there's a lot I could say about our attack in this last match. More possession than Bournemouth, but then less XG, less big chances. And I've said before, right? With our defense being as weak as it is, we need our attack to carry us. So I don't think it's all too surprising that with the way we underperformed in the other half, we ended up losing. I think that would be completely reasonable. But ultimately, the issues still come back to the defense. It almost feels like a foregone conclusion to say that our defense is poor, and it's going to continue to be. So people just move on to covering the attack with Salah and Wirtz and the like. And maybe because that's the more flashy part of the game, they'll point out those issues, right? But really, the defense is an enormous problem right now. Van Dijk, not sure what his match rating was for this game. Maybe I can pull it up from SofaScore when I'm editing.
It was actually decent because of the goal, but the eye test was not good.
This is the thing. I can say for sure that his defending rating in particular will be absolutely terrible. He didn't close out Scott well at all before the first goal, which let him get off what should have been a much more difficult pass to Evan Nilsson for that goal. Then he kept players on side for Bournemouth's second goal, as well as Evan Nilsson's attempt at a third around, I think, the 82nd or 83rd minute. And even with the game winner from the Cherries, he got pushed around in the box, then sat around and ball watched. I don't think, I'm sure he got a rating boost from scoring a goal. I don't think
this was prime Virgil van Delegate. Virgil van Delegate, the meme template.
This is when we talk about Hater Central making banter names. This is the kind of performance that gets you a new banter name. Something
exactly.
Someone should make something for Van Dijk. I'm sure he got a rating boost from scoring a goal.
Oh, he got he actually ended up with a 7.3. But you know how on SofaScore you get a rating breakdown, you can see the individual rating.
So
I'm not going to tell you what his. Well, I'm not going to tell you what it says for a defender. You can just go see for yourself. It's not good, is what I'm going to say.
I'm sure he got that rating boost, but he shouldn't get a good rating when he practically allowed 2. he practically allowed
This
two
is the
goals
issue.
across those
Yeah.
like four attempts.
Certainly the first goal is just absolutely his fault, at least, at minimum. So I think that already neutralizes it.
It should
This is the
neutralize.
issue. This is the issue with just like going off of ratings, by the way, and not watching games. Um, I feel like recently that is becoming a thing where like people make shorts about players and they say, "Oh, he's back" or whatever because of his rating on like SofaScore or FootMob or whatever. But yeah, I mean, if you watch the game, Virgil van Dijk was absolutely terrible, and so much so that my number one note question here is the first thing I typed about this match was Slot. What is the identity of this squad? Is it the old guard? Is it Virgil van Delegate and Mo finished, or is it the new guys? Is it Verts and Ekatike? Because I thought it was Verts and Ekatike. In fact, this is the reason why Salah was so mad at Liverpool, right? So I think I don't want to say it was working, but Slot was starting to turn things around a little bit, like this. But now, as soon as Mo Salah comes back, he does a complete role reversal. I question how much faith he has in his own tactics, and I think fundamentally, like you guys are not going to win the title, of course, I understand, but you have to be building for the future here, right? If I'm like the Liverpool board, why should I keep you on, Arne Slot? Why should I trust you to rebuild the squad when you don't have trust in your own convictions? You don't have trust in your own identity that you claim to want to build Liverpool around. You have to have something there in order to build cohesiveness within the squad. I don't understand what is causing this wishy-washiness at Anfield right now.
Yeah, and I mean, I rag on Van Dyke, but Kanate has put up similar stinkers in other games. Meanwhile, Frimpong, Kirkes, Gomez have been like bang average most of the time, if not pretty bad.
Oh,
Again,
Kirkus was terrible. I think he forgot he wasn't.
oh
He's
yeah,
no
in
longer at
this game
Bournemouth.
he was pretty shit too.
Oh yeah.
It's not getting much attention anymore, but I think the defense here is still the problem first and foremost. And
The issue is because if we say what Milos Kirkus' nickname is, we would get banned from YouTube.
yeah, I think here's the thing, because we've also done Jack in the winter transfer window, and I'm not seeing any news around a right back or a center back. So ultimately, I'm just very worried these poor performances, consistently from one or two defenders each match, are just going to continue to kill our games.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you put it perfectly, to be honest. About Newcastle though, I also have question marks. Newcastle. I'm talking to Eddie Howe. Okay. Um, I'm talking to both managers. We're doing a
Direct-
personal one.
Get him on.
I have
speed
both
dial.
I have both
Yeah.
their numbers on my phone. You know that's I'm the mastermind. I'm why both these teams have been so much worse this season. Eddie Howe, I thought you were building this offense around Voltemade because you've given him chances. Some would say too many chances to prove himself during bad performances. It has been a key reason for why your team has not been good away. He has been a key reason why your offense has been so one-dimensional and you rely on him plus Harvey Barnes. But like with Liverpool, I thought that was your identity. I thought you were building around Voltemade for the future. So why is it when Yohan Wissa is now happy, when Yohan Wissa is, I guess, miraculously back from injury, his personal issues are gone, why is he starting every game now? And why is he getting so many chances as well? Because this guy is tanking your squad right now. Newcastle over the past like 2-3 weeks has been significantly worse because for whatever they're not easing him into the starting lineup, they're just starting him. Well, what's going on, Eddie? Like, do you also have no spine, no idea for how you want Newcastle to play? I said at the intro, by the way. There's so much I can say about both these squads. You can make any reasonable prediction here. This is why I'm so confused about these two managers right now.
Yeah, it's I just find it interesting with Newcastle that they almost seem to switch every 2 weeks from offensive issues to defensive issues and then back to offensive. I remember against Man U, they had lots of finishing problems, just one part of their terrible away form. Then they had two high scoring games versus Leeds and Bournemouth, including lots of goals in their own net. And now I feel like they're back to attacking issues. Against Villa, they generated real danger. More possession led to repeated entries in the box. Three big chances as rated by SofaScore. 2.2 XG, which you'd think bags them something, yet they left with nothing. I think the XGOT wasn't great on that game, so that might have been part of it, the finishing.
But
But
that's on them though. That's on them.
yeah,
They're not.
yeah,
They're not. Yeah.
absolutely. It's not bad luck at this point. I think the finishing just never matches the build-up. You have Tonali driving through midfield. That's great. Trippier delivers quality from wide. Gordon and Barnes are finding lots of pockets, but once they make those chances, they can't finish them. And also, you didn't have Guimaraes starting, which so the edge between phases dulled at key moments, which let Villa break through for their first goal. And once Villa went ahead, Newcastle gets increasingly predictable in possession. Ultimately, the numbers across the whole game say that they were good enough to get something. If you watch the game state says that they never truly seized control at any point. I
Yeah.
don't know. This team has just been flip-flopping. Like, the way that they've been flip-flopping makes it so hard for me to say how this game will go. Along with Liverpool just being shit everywhere.
Liverpool also being crazy flip floppers as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Is also
because then we scored 6 on Carrick. I mean, admittedly,
right.
the
Yeah.
Carrick, but like we went and scored 6. So
Yeah. I mean, I can't. Hey, listen, Carabag better team than Marseille apparently, according to the UCL
true.
standings.
They are getting through to the next stage.
Show some
Yes.
respect to Carabag, please.
It's just I don't know exactly how this game will go, but neither team is going to have an easy time. That's safe to say. This will be just like their form. It will be back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfectly said. And because of that, I think because Eddie Howe is self sabotaging right now, so is Arne Slot, to be fair. And also the fact that Harvey Barnes' form has been slipping as well. So the one glimmer of hope that Newcastle had towards not being completely one-dimensional offensively, yeah, well, that's gone. I'm just gonna go based on home advantage. Like I said before, the Premier League is so close this year that home advantage is a huge factor. And just because of that, I would have had a completely different prediction if this were at Newcastle. I'm gonna say Liverpool in this one 2-0.
Yeah, I think both sides' flaws will be far more visible than any strengths they might have at this point. We're clearly vulnerable again defensively. We now have Sobo again having to fill in at right back because Frimpong is genuinely more unstable injury-wise than like Flat Stanley. That one, I don't know if people get that reference. The boy that's made of paper. I think he might be. Do you know for any physics guys, you know when you smash carbon into a sheet that's like 1 atom thick, it's called graphene. I think Jeremy Frimpong is made of that. It's bad at right back, and again, we don't have any transfers there. It's not going to get any better. But so I'd be honestly, you're saying Newcastle aren't going to score. I'd be pretty shocked if they didn't. I think they absolutely can. Honestly, I think just about anyone can. But I think our offense is just better. Like you said, Barnes is not doing great right now, and we at least still have Wirtz and Eki that we can bring on if we need to score. So I think it'll be a game where our defense will be shit as usual, but because Newcastle's attack isn't great, they're not going to score that much on us, and I think we do just enough to get the win. I'm going to say we take it 2-1.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that either, to be honest. You can say just about anything again for this, and that's fair. But that being said, we talked about Liverpool, we talked about Chelsea, we talked about Arsenal. Let's talk about another team that, as you were saying earlier, I mean, they're still right there in the title race, man. Aston Villa, they're somehow still doing it against Brentford for this match. Tell me what you think.
I think Villa's defining feature for the team right now is their attacking variety. I think that is really making them a nightmare to play against. They don't.
The fact, by the way, sorry to interrupt you, the fact that they're able to do this and nobody else can is what makes that such an important thing.
I know City have been trying to do that for a while, but like no one is doing it better than Villa right now. They don't rely on one pattern or one zone of the pitch. They score from distance, from crosses, from cutbacks, complete moments of improvisation between the lines. Against Newcastle, you had the Buendia goal. Another reminder, you cannot afford to stand off this side anywhere within like 25 yards. Watkins' header as well. They can still punish you inside the box when you drop too deep. And Emery's structure rarely supports this sort of freedom. Rodgers' movement to destabilize the backlines, Sancho to add on predictability on the ball, Buendia again floating into pockets which defenders rarely struggle to pass on. And even without McGinn and Kamara, Villa look balanced in attack. They are about as balanced as you can be. Again, they still have this problem, and I'm forgetting who they played today in Europa. It might have been Salzburg, where like they're kind of blunt. in the first half, all things considered. But when their attack powers up, it is like they're good all over the pitch. And you just really cannot do that much to keep their scoring threats out. They're really comfortable just scoring heavy on you. They just take shots and they find their goals, right?
Just out of
It's
nowhere.
hard to avoid. Yeah.
Turning on second half merchants as well, because that match they were 2-0 down in the second half.
Yeah, and then they scored 3 and they won it.
And then they won. But they won.
Yeah, that's Villa for you.
That is exactly Villa in a nutshell. But you did say earlier we have 3 teams that are title contenders. I feel like at some point I'm just curious, am I a hater? Do I actually believe this, or am I a hater?
For not thinking Villa's in the title race?
I still don't think Villa's in the title race. And you know what's crazy about this? For a long time, the one thing on my side is the statistics, is the numbers. I think Opta has Villa as the second favorite to win the Premier League now. So, like, no one agrees with me on this. And I was, like, the number 1 Villa stan last year. So I don't understand what's going on. But I just think that, look, one of their biggest issues, especially earlier in the season, this is less of a thing now, but it will come back. It will come back later in the season. They can't play 2 matches in a week. They don't have the depth for that. And what's making that even worse is that they have been absolutely ravished in the midfield. That midfield is so important, by the way. Part of it, by Unai Emery playing more direct, is solving the issue somewhat, but it is still a big problem. Kamara, McGinn, and Barkley are injured. Tielemans is doubtful. And right now, when you're playing 2 matches a week, when every match is so important, when, they're in the title race. They're still 4 points behind in Arsenal's side. Like, they have to stay on top of it right now. It's not looking good. And, I mean, Unai Emery even said it himself, right? I think in a recent interview, he was like, yeah, we're not even in the top 5 race, which I think that is a little crazy. But I think Villa, like, I'm very worried right now. They're walking a very, very tight wire.
You know what's funny? I think a lot of that, the injury problem, the fact that they don't have players, you can blame on, and I think we both still agree it was a robbery. The final day of last season.
Oh my fucking God.
It's like they couldn't sign anybody. I think you'd hope that they'd have at least one new signing there, right? But they had no UCL money. They only had
that was like a $100 million VAR robbery, unironically.
It's, even as well as they're doing right now, it's come back to bite them in the ass again, I would say. As for Brentford, this last game, an interesting one. As of recent, they've played out their games with intensity, lots of chance creation, ultimately some pretty high scoring. And against Forest, I'd argue they did that pretty well. Their approach, they played that out quite well. But none of it translated into goals, right?
Well, you know why? Haram ball. Haram ball strikes again. Sean Dyche ball strikes again, man.
Haram ball, especially against one specific person. Thiago, right? He's been the focal point of Brentford's attack throughout this stretch of high scoring, and his movement still causes problems, but teams are adapting, and they're crowding him out, and forcing Brentford to rely on these secondary runners. And without Damsgaard, that creative spark between the lines was badly missed, and even with Jensen and Shada involved, too many attacks just stall at the final decision. Thiago is confident. If you get that final ball to him, you can expect him to score. I don't know about Shada. I don't know about Jensen, that they can finish with that same confidence that he has.
At least with the same consistency, for sure.
Exactly. Despite significantly higher XG, they had much lower XG on target because only one shot went toward goal in the first place. Structurally, they're still sound, Brentford, and the work rate is there, but there's just a lot of trouble in front of goal right now. It killed their last game, and while they'll hope it was just a blip, I think it can absolutely cause them trouble here against Villa. Perhaps they won't play it quite the same way Nottingham did, but I think they'll have some issues nonetheless.
Oh, for sure. What's happened now, essentially, is Igor Thiago is getting the Erling Haaland treatment from the entire Premier League. As, obviously, he should, to be clear.
Isn't he, like, the second highest scorer?
I mean, he's not that far off from Erling Haaland right now. I think he's only, 4 goals away.
So this is... when Haaland was at his number of goals, this is what the treatment that Haaland was getting. So I guess it's his turn now.
Yeah, so exactly. Like, why would you let him play the way he has? And I think that's even more of an issue for him than it is for Erling Haaland, because he's been so structurally isolated from the rest of the squad. He's just a true striker that way. I mean, you look at, like, the what's it called, the average position map. Is that what it is for a lot of Brentford games? He is often very isolated, and so having to rely on your other players yes, as speedy as someone like a Kevin Schade, for example, can be, you know, like it is still a big loss to Brentford tactically for sure.
Yeah, I think it's gonna cause them some issues here. And again, I don't know that Villa can shut him out as well as Nottingham could. And in fact, I do think he or well, maybe not he, but someone else can score potentially. I think ultimately, if someone gets a goal, it will still be Thiago. But like Villa have been quite proactive at home, and I expect that they can come out swinging, press high, commit numbers forward, and they can find their goal. I think Brentford will get some openings as well, but I just don't trust that. Assuming Villa play pretty well to cover Thiago, I don't trust Brentford's finishing with him like largely out of the picture. And so I think Brentford will be somewhat wasteful with what chances they do get. And on the other side, Villa can hurt you from distance. Again, they can hurt you from crosses, through movement between the lines. Any missed chances for Brentford will be lamented because there is bound to be scoring the other way. And I think Villa are going to take it 2-1 here. It is their classic one goal margin victory. And
Yeah,
because they can limit Brentford pretty heavily, 2 goals for them is enough.
fair enough. What I will say though is I think this is the match where Villa's midfield injuries get to them. Because how does Brentford play? Brentford's midfield, yes, Damsgaard as a creative output is a huge loss, but if you're just talking about the physicality, the ability to do hold up play, the ability to just hold the ball long enough that you can just create something crazy or score off of a throw or whatever, that is the one place where Brentford has a clear advantage. I think they would have an advantage anyways, but with these injuries, a clear advantage over Aston Villa. And the reason I don't think Aston Villa are title contenders is because matches like this, I don't think they win. I'm gonna go for one draw.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Honestly, I didn't think about it too heavily, but yeah, the midfield is a problem. I agree. And yeah, it could definitely come to a head here because Brentford is tactically right to take advantage of that. Okay. We now have a confident Man U team hosting a confident Fulham team, both on decent form as of late, both with late winners to seal
Yeah,
their
a little bit
games.
more than decent for United,
Yeah,
I would say.
that's true. That's true. Let's see who keeps that confidence into the next match week. What do you think?
Well, first off about United, man, the Carrick sexuals are going absolutely hog wild on social media right now. Listen, I understand it was City and Arsenal. Very impressive, yes. But, like, it's been 2 games. Can we please chill the fuck out, guys? God. Look, my number one concern with new managers when it comes to the Premier League is can you beat the mid-table teams? What Carrick has done basically is I feel like you know how for a while Ole Gunnar Solskjaer looked like he was going to come back to the managing job. He has come back to the managing job because shit, the way they've been playing recently, I could have sworn it was Ole on the touchline. Like this is back to United 5 years ago the way they played. I don't know long term if that's going to be a better strategy, but it is sure as hell a lot more entertaining when it comes to the type of football the United play. As a neutral, this is awesome. Uh, but again, my concern is can Carrick translate it to mid-table sides? The one reason I'm so impressed with Liam Rosenior at Chelsea right now is because he has been able to do that. But I think he's the exception. He's not the rule. And Carrick has, I mean, he hasn't had the chance yet, but I don't have any evidence on how he's going to be able to do that against the stereotypical, the mid-table of all mid-table teams, a team that is average at everything, but that averages can be enough in the Premier League in Fulham. This is going to be a true test.
Yeah. And I do agree that like Rosinier's got experience that can help him with mid-table teams that Carrick does not. But I do think as well, besides whatever his tactics are and his own personal experience, just this experience of getting these 2 wins in a row against second and then first in the league, I think it is hard to overstate the importance of that for Man U, for the team, for the fans, and the comfort and confidence that's given to them. They're playing with patience. They're trusting their structure. They're picking moments rather than trying to force them, trying to force goals. You have the double pivot of like Menu, Casemiro has given them control in central areas, and the freedom afforded to Bruno and to Cunha between the lines has made their attacks feel a lot stronger, just like not rushed. They're a lot more unpredictable, you could say, but in this case, that is in a good way, I think. And I'd say what stood out most at the Emirates was how calm United were when the game tilted against them. They waited, they recycled possession, and they attacked space with intent when it opened up. Again, they didn't try to force the issue too much, and in doing so, they didn't let the lead get any bigger. They didn't let the gap get any bigger on them, so that was good. There are still moments when their defensive concentration wavers, especially if they're forced into like a sustained low block. But overall, they seem to have a lot more confidence in the tactics and that the tactics are going to help them get by. They're not wavering when things start to go wrong. They stay firm, right? And with these roles now clearly defined and the confidence growing in the team, United should feel that they can continue to impose themselves on these matches. And so it's, again, hard to say how they'll do against a mid table team because so far it's been great performances against title contenders. But
I just feel like I've seen this story so many times before with United, you
yeah,
know?
okay.
Like, isn't this the same thing that happened when Ole first joined United?
That's
I mean,
true.
you remember
That's
the
true.
memes? You know, give him a contract, give him the contract, let him write whatever number he wants, and let him sign it. That was what they were saying. And you know, I'm just a little bit worried about United because I feel like they always get this manager bounce. Everyone gets a manager bounce, but them especially. I just don't know. I just have question marks.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I think as for Fulham, they should come into this match also with a lot to like about where they are right now, especially in how resilient they've become in these matches. I think I've said it before, they really are able to stay in games. They don't panic when games turn against them, and they've developed this real knack for staying alive long enough to flip the script. Again, against Brighton, it's hard to take too much of that out of that game because Brighton will allow you to stay in the game. But they have been consistent in that they can be second best for long stretches in a game, but they still find ways to stay competitive, and ultimately they strike late and they get a point where they even get three. Harry Wilson's form gives them a constant outlet for moments of inspiration. Jimenez's presence up top offers structure. Even if the service is limited, he can manage to find something in quite a few games. The concern, as ever, is that Fulham, they can drift out of games when they're pressed aggressively through the midfield, and they're not always cleaning up in the first phase build-up. But I think it is like that resilience is what is getting them through games. The fact that this is a team that believes it can survive difficult spells, which I just said is something that United now has. They now have that belief. That's what they've been striving for. And Fulham has had that. And I think going to Old Trafford, playing this Man U team that's now beaten second and first, most teams would be very intimidated. Fulham, not so much. I think they're looking very good right now, and they should also have a lot of confidence that they can get something out of this game.
Yeah, I think that's basically exactly why I'm so worried. I remember earlier in the season, I don't remember if they drew or lost, but like in very similar fashion, United should have won a match, and then I think it was show up like an Emil Smith Rowe, uh, or either someone crossed the ball to him, and then it was Luke Shaw or Harry Maguire who just absolutely whiffs it, just lets the ball go past, and then it's a free goal for Emil Smith Rowe. I'm kind of worried that United's gonna fall into that again. I will say I still have them winning. I actually do have a United 2-1 win because the biggest issue with Fulham right now, Sash Lukic being injured is such a big loss for them in the midfield. And United centralizing the midfield, Bruno back to his natural position, Kobe Mainu as well, someone who we've talked for a long time. Why isn't he starting? Well, now he is. I do think United, by all logical accounts, should win. I feel like I'm being the emotional one. You're being logical. By all logical accounts, United easily should win this match. The only reason I'm a little hesitant is just, the history of it. But yeah, I do think United should win this one 2-1.
Yeah, I don't think it's unreasonable to say that there's a chance for, like, a decent chance for Fulham to win, or at least, like, to get a draw. Again, the form is great for these two teams. United have won two massive games. Carrick has them playing with patience, with composure. They're controlling the midfield in long spells. They're trusting their attacking quality to get them ahead. That's good. They have faith in their tactics, right? And Fulham also have faith in their tactics that they can their ability to stay in games so late. Wilson, Iwobi, Smith Rowe giving them enough craft to hurt United for sure, especially in transition. But with these few other factors, these few other differentiating factors that you do have, United are at home. That's definitely helpful, especially with the fans fired up right now. And Fulham look kind of patchy away. I mean, again, home form has been a big deal, but I think Fulham especially have not been great away from home. And I think just sustaining pressure at Old Trafford for 90 minutes, though I'm sure they're going to come in with confidence given their recent performances, it's not going to be an easy feat for Fulham. And I think they find a goal, but United's confidence, helped along by the crowd, gives them the edge. And I'll say it's a 2-1 for Man U.
Yeah, fair enough. That being said, we're going to move on now to Nottingham vs Crystal Palace, teams that I think have been kind of slipping a little bit this season. And Palace, I don't know if it's a crisis, but it's not looking good.
Okay, I'll start with Forest. We'll get to the shit show a bit later on. I mean, it is a shit show, really. It is not great right now. But Forest's win at Brentford, of course, they got a solid win against a non-relegation contender, right? That's great. But I think what was great about it, especially, is how calmly it was managed. They weathered an early push, settled into a compact, disciplined shape, trusted their structure to do the heavy lifting. Again, this is a big thing, I think. These teams need to have trust in their tactics. And Forest do. They have. Like, Dyche can absolutely take this team and make them very confident in his tactics, his style of Dyche ball. Murillo, Milenkovic were outstanding at controlling central spaces, repeatedly stepped out to stop Brentford attacks before they got dangerous, and I think that is a pretty big part of why Brentford ended up scoreless in that game, despite having pretty high XG. Forest were happy to concede territory, but they didn't concede too much. They didn't concede too much space, and I think they just generally did a good job defensively. Now, I will say going forward, they could use a bit more in attack, but like they're quite stable in the back, and I think that is just a very good base for them to have. They feel very comfortable off the ball, and that is a great attribute. I think Forest against this Palace side, who are really struggling to convert their possession into clear chances, Forest should be able to do the same thing. They can give him possession, let him have the ball, and they'll be pretty comfortable knowing that Palace are not very comfortable with the ball at their feet.
Yeah, fair enough. And I think, yeah, I mean, when it comes to Nottingham, it's not about pretty football. It's not about possession. It's just get the 3 points, get out of there. And when it comes to a team like Palace, who have been struggling with possession as much as they have, and the fact that they're playing at home, I think, yeah, I mean, this does feel sort of textbook. Like, this is a match that Nottingham are actually not too far from the drop zone. They are in 17th, and West Ham have been looking good recently. If they are to step, this is the sort of game they have to get a result in.
Yeah, yeah. I think they will absolutely be pushing. I mean, they are at home as well. So you have the home fans to deal with if you end up dropping points here. As for Palace, I think their loss to Chelsea has summed up their recent run very well. Moments early on, pressed well in spells, and created chances that should have changed the tone of the game, but once again, they failed to take them. Mateta's early miss, of course, Mateta's got to be involved there, loomed large, and from there the pattern felt very familiar. Lapse in concentration, a sloppy error, and suddenly Palace were chasing. They were chasing the game. I know discipline has also become an issue. Warren got the red card. It killed any faint hope of recovery they might have had. But even before that, Palace was struggling to take their chances. And they just looked more and more fragile as Chelsea increased the tempo. Honestly, the margins with this team and their matches just feel thinner and thinner every week. And Palace just keep falling the wrong side of them. And they're getting maybe not more and more tired out. At this point, they're already tired enough as it is. I don't know that can be changed much more. But like, the squad is obviously not in great shape. And they're also just having some pretty shit luck. And they're also making a lot of errors. They're also not finishing well. It just feels like so much is going wrong for these guys right now. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like losing your defensive, losing your midfield conductor in Adam Wharton. The offense, nobody there is a true scorer. Nobody there is a true direct player. I guess at best you have Brendan Johnson, but even him, he's somebody who you find the ball. He's not somebody who goes in and creates the chance himself so much. Nothing like it seems to be working for this Palace side. It's really bad. They also just played in the midweek, which is probably going to make them more tired for this match, and they already have lack of midfield depth. I'm honestly, man, given how good they looked at the start of the season, it's so unfortunate to fall off. And now Glasgow's leaving too, and as he should. Uh, Palace are just in such a bad situation. It's really disappointing too, honestly. Given like just a year ago, less like just 6 months ago, really, the prospects for the squad were so good. They were solid in every position. They had solid backups in the midfield. Not as good, yes, but they could have weathered a storm like this so much better. If Wharton had not picked up that red card, and then losing all your pros like this, not being able to really bring anyone back substantially. Again, like yes, Brendan Johnson's here, but where are the replacements at the center back position? Where is the consistent striker that we saw last year? Um, Palace are just, I mean, nothing's going right for them.
Yeah, it's not great. What can I say? Like, okay, you have Forest here, right? That they're under Dyche now, and you expect from a Dyche team to have basically no flair, and instead they should be controlled, disciplined, built on defensive authority, and they are all of those things. Whereas Palace, they just don't look like Palace anymore because their roster is just like dying. They're dropping like flies, basically. That's part of the issue. And again, the guys who do have left are making quite a lot of errors. And late game discipline issues as well that have now led to Wharton's absence from an already stretched midfield. Just generally, their confidence is absolutely shot. I mean, they're bottom of the form table, right? I don't think Forest even need to chase this game much because Palace haven't shown enough composure lately to force the issue. One clean moment, a set piece, transition, maybe just like a nice individual moment from Gibbs White could be enough. And I think that is like they'll do something like that. They just need one moment to get the only goal of the game. I'm going to say it's a 1-0 win for Nottingham. I don't think Palace have it in them to threaten.
I could not have said it better myself. 1-0 Nottingham.
Yeah. I know I said before that like I think just about any team could score on us right now, Liverpool. I think the one exception might be Palace. And I know it's crazy that I say that over like Wolves. I genuinely think like a Wolves offense with just Mateus Mane doing as well as he is right now has a better chance of scoring on us with than Palace without Warden does.
I
It's
was gonna say
incredible.
Burnley, but I feel like I could say the same thing about like Lyle Foster.
Yeah,
So
they can find something late, right?
yeah, I mean,
Palace, they don't have their orchestrator. Like as if it wasn't bad enough, he's got a red card and they can't play him.
yeah, if we're saying like without Wharton, then yeah, absolutely, you're just correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. Let's hope they. I mean, I don't know how much of a Palace fan you are. I know I said at one point that I was feeling a bit of Schadenfreude seeing them as down in the dumps as they were. But yeah,
I'm really
I like. I
disappointed.
wouldn't.
I'm really disappointed.
I
Honestly,
wouldn't
I want
mind
them to do
seeing
well.
them pick up form. I'm also kind of disappointed that they've dropped off this hard. It's hard to do any better with the player issues that they have, but one would hope that once they start getting people back up and healthy, uh, they do better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Tottenham hosting City now we have in a Big Six clash with one not so Big
Big
Six
Six.
team.
Big
Yeah.
Six.
I think
Tottenham in the Big Six. What are we talking
because
about?
here's the thing. They've won a Europa League and that's it. That is like their one merit for staying in the Big Six at this point.
Okay,
Otherwise,
that's
we
like
kick
so.
out and we put in Villa and maybe Newcastle. Though Newcastle are not the greatest right now. But
We
like, I
certainly
think-
Villa's in a title race right now. Like, of
Right,
course
yeah.
you have to put in. Yeah, I mean,
So I don't is this game if they lose this game, if they fuck up this game at home, do you think their Big Six rights are revoked at this point?
their Big Six rights were revoked years ago. Okay, first off, I'm saying this as a Leicester fan. Okay, Tottenham dropped out of the Big Six in like 2020. All right.
You sure
I
they didn't drop out of the Big Six when they lost to you guys?
Oh well, no, but there were other teams that I think you can still say they're better than in the Big Six at the time.
Okay.
I think 2020. I'm sorry for 2020 to 2022. Leicester City had a better claim for Big Six than Tottenham. I know it's like weird to say this because now we're a mid-table at best championship team.
I mean, you guys had FA Cup as well, right?
We had an FA
Yeah,
Cup.
so
We had an FA Cup.
not
We
on
finished
this
ahead of
one. You
them
had
3 years in a
other
row
trophies,
in the
yeah.
Premier League. By the way,
That's true.
why weren't we in the Big Six at that? I don't understand. Like, what more did we have to do? You know. We were doing shit in Europe. I mean, we didn't win anything in Europe, but we made like the semis of the conference league. They didn't do like they actually did nothing. They had no reason to be there. And then when Villa and Newcastle became what they were and replaced us basically, they've got no Big Six. I mean, they got Big Six shouts somewhat, but both of them have been better than Tottenham as of recent. I'm sorry, like, if we're just basing one Europa League title over like, okay, I'm sorry, this is maybe disrespectful. I think winning the Carabao Cup is bigger than winning the Europa League.
I mean, with the state of European football right
With the
now, I mean,
state of the
we've
Premier
just
League,
seen like
because the Premier League is as good as it
five
is,
Prem teams in the top 8 of the UCL, right? I think that's not even
the
that
fact
elite.
the fact that the Premier League, I think, because the claim against the Carabao Cup, the reason why it's not as big as the FA Cup is that teams don't put as much effort into it. But even the second rosters that a lot of teams play in the Carabao Cup is still better than the quality in the Europa League. Okay, like I don't people again, the Premier League can have Arsenal playing the way they are right now, and they have a perfect record in the UCL. They can have Tottenham in 14th and they're fourth in UCL rankings. Okay, let's just be so crystal clear here. Sorry. Anyways, anyways, Tottenham. Yeah, they should not. They've just not been good in the Prem. At all. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, okay, if there's one thing this last match from Tottenham has done for me, it's highlighted the very weird state of their offense. I'm going to throw out a couple things. They
Oh,
had 11
absolutely.
shots on target against Burnley, which is the most they've had in a league game in over 2 years. But they still needed a 90th minute Romero header to win it. Not to win it,
To
not to win
draw
to
it.
salvage a
To
draw.
draw.
Exactly.
Burnley at
Spurs center
home.
backs,
Wait, what are they?
Romero and Van de Ven, continue to contribute crucial goals. Underlines really how much this team relies on them for offensive moments. And you could say, oh, your two center backs are scoring. Well, that's nice. You have some offensive variety. They are second and third place, or I should say they're tied for second as the
Mhm.
highest scorers on this squad. And if you put them together, they have more goals than first place Richarlison does. I would
Yeah.
say that is just as much a symptom of struggles in the forward line as it is a strength
Right.
for this team.
I was actually going to bring this up, and I was going to say this is a really bad thing that you're tied for second
Yeah,
scorers are your two center backs,
your two center backs, I don't know. And these same defenders have just not done enough in the actual defense. They're not doing what they've been hired for.
and the
This
midfield has
is
done absolutely nothing. That's not going to
this
help.
is like if I was hired at Domino's and I was told to be a cashier, and now I'm just stealing the delivery van so I can go on runs to people's houses. This is not what I've been. This is not what my contract has in mind. They're not doing
Right.
their job in the back line, shown here with Spurs conceding two avoidable goals after initially controlling the game. So, like, you have to think what needs to change here. I think Frank is going to want his wide attackers, Odebear, Xavi Simmons, to be more creative, but also they have to show some more defensive awareness because otherwise, City's pressing and transitions will thoroughly exploit Spurs' gaps between the lines. That is the big fix they need here, I think, is the defense. They need to do something about it. As strange as the offense is right now, they're at least finding goals, but if your CBs are doing offensive jobs and they're not doing defensive jobs and no one else is stepping up for the back line, it means nothing. Those goals mean nothing, really, with a weak defense.
Yeah. Um. What I will say, look, the one thing for the thing is, right, Richarlison does have the top goals with 7, I think. He scores the most useless goals ever. Like, I swear, like, all of those goals are like, Tottenham now lose by 1 goal instead of 2. Like, that is what they, like, this guy,
Or he draws, celebrates, and then they just lose it after.
right,
Right?
or he celebrates too early and then
Yeah.
curses, right, of course. Or, he celebrates too early and then the goal is disallowed as well, that is also one of his specialties. I will say what Richarlison does, he like scores against big teams, but the thing is, it's not that he scores against big teams and helps Tottenham get results. He scores against big teams after it's too late. And so that's kind of what I see happening here. I do think Tottenham get a goal. They're going to create nothing offensively, but just Richarlison is just going to score. But as for Manchester City, it's what we said earlier, right? Villa's biggest strength is that they have multiple avenues of attack, and nobody else does. City have multiple avenues of attack. It's just that they don't have multiple avenues of attack at the same time. That's the thing. It's they have so many ways they can score, but they can't make it all click together. I don't know why it is. But earlier in the season, we were talking about now Phil Foden and Marmoush are looking good, and then Erling Haaland's bad, and then Phil Foden and Ryan Cherky were cooking, and now they're not. But now Antoine Semenyo's come in and he's cooking, and Marmoush is cooking, but Haaland can't do anything. It's weird. I don't understand what's going on with Manchester City. but they always seem to have a way to score, but they never show the consistency to score in multiple ways, or at least not for more than a few games at a time. And I think if they did, they would be first in the Premier League right now.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a completely reasonable assessment. They will have some restored confidence in their attack after their win over Wolves, which is funny to say because Wolves has been a punching bag this whole season. But they're not an expected 3 points anymore, so I guess it's a pretty decent result for City that does end a 4-game Prem winless streak. And I think it is nice that they've found this strong attacking rhythm without Holland and Foden. Marmoush to open the scoring, Semenyo adding a second. But it is kind of questionable that they can only have like 2 spots for good attackers at a time. I don't know. We know that City's got a lot of attacking threats. I guess what Pep needs now is like some nice transitions, high intensity, get some wide overloads, really test that Spurs defense. And then maybe, even if not everyone in the front line steps up, because Spurs' defense is as shit right now as it is, they can get things done, right? And I honestly do expect more than a goal for City here. I think I'm even just going to get into my call right now. I think, yeah, let's say Richarlison scores 1, but I think City can find 2. Probably it's going to be like a late concession to Tottenham for their 1 goal. But it's not going to look like I don't think it's going to be a super confident win for City as well. Also worth saying, Tottenham have played quite good against City as of late. It's just, they're kind of their boogeyman. Maybe not for this particular
this is what's going to happen, okay? In the first half, Bernardo Silva scores an early goal. Either Marmoush or Turkey is going to score the second. And then 90 plus 4th in stoppage time, Richarlison just scores a random banger, celebrates like he's won the game, even though he really should be getting the ball back and desperately trying to score a goal. Not that it'll matter because they win anyways.
Probably going to celebrate like he's won Tottenham their second trophy in forever.
Right.
But yeah, it's not gonna mean anything. It's congratulations on another late goal.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Congratulations on. I would say he's stat padding, except these goals are actually really impressive. So that'd be unfair as well. But yeah, like I think City are gonna dominate. I actually don't think they're ever gonna be concerned because the goal will just be so late that Tottenham just don't have time to score a second. So yeah, I agree with you. City 2-1. That brings us to the last match of this Premier League weekend, and we have Sunderland against Burnley.
Okay, I'll start with Sunderland. Recent results have been a mix of promise and frustration. Obviously, they still have pretty good cohesion, particularly in how they move the ball out from the back, create overloads on the flanks. I mean, they are structurally strong, right? This is what we've seen from them. They have very much an idea of tactically where they want to be. But there is a lingering sense of inconsistency here. Yes, they can still punish teams that leave space behind with quick switches, clever off-the-ball movement from their wide attackers, as they've been doing this whole season. But they've had some trouble maintaining that tempo as of late and keeping focus for the full 90 minutes. Lapses in concentration can leave them exposed to counters, which is something that Burnley in particular are definitely capable of exploiting. But, of course, I have to bring up that home advantage. We've talked about home advantage for other teams, right? But especially for Sunderland, if you look at their games, their worst losses, and really just all their losses as of recent, are away from home. Last 5 away games are 2 draws and 3 losses. Their last 5 home games are 2 draws and 3 wins. This team is still capable of starting fast. They can stay composed, press high, force errors. If they can now do all that and take full advantage of their home support as well, it's going to be very difficult, I think, for Burnley to get their standard draw, let alone a win. Which Burnley, I think, are looking for their first win in like 14 league games. So they could desperately use those points, but I don't think they're going to find them here. Not all 3, at least.
Yeah, I mean, Sunderland still haven't lost at Stadium of Light this year. And I think that's like the one constant. Through thick and thin, through terrible form, this is the one thing that they have going for them. And I would have been worried because Granit Xhaka, obviously losing him in the midfield, clearly, as we saw in that last match against West Ham, was a huge loss. But I mean, this Burnley side is just inconsistent. I don't trust them. I don't trust them offensively, even though they did what they did to Tottenham. Sunderland's going to be a tough team to break down. Like Burnley, they have a good offense, but they don't have a dynamic offense. You need to have a dynamic offense to break down Sunderland. And so yeah, I just don't see how they can get really a good result here.
Yeah, I mean, Burnley, they're not a great team. They're a resilient team, to be fair. They show flashes of intensity and opportunism through the full 90 minutes, and they can take advantage of the rare opportunity that they get. They love to push late, right? They use quick transitions. They seem to do pretty well on set pieces when it really matters towards the end of the game. And against most teams, all these traits together are legitimately threatening. But I just don't feel that these moments of individual brilliance, as opposed to sustained team wide pressure, can stop the absolute train that is the Black Cats at home. At Sunderland, the Clarets need to be cautious of early intensity from the home team while still trying to remain a threat on the counter. And at the Stadium of Light, I don't think Burnley can manage that. Maybe a side like Everton, who did draw Sunderland at the Stadium of Light, I believe, or Nottingham, but not Burnley. Which means the only other option is for Sunderland to screw up enough that Burnley are actually given that chance to equalize or even take a lead late on. And that does mean, unfortunately, I see this game as largely out of Burnley's control. I think it'll be up to Sunderland, for the most part, to decide how this goes. So I'd say expect a tight contest, but one largely dictated by Sunderland's pace, their creativity, and of course their home advantage. Burnley maybe could grab a goal on the break or from a set piece, but I think I'll say Sunderland wins 1-0. That'll be my call. But if Burnley score one, I think Sunderland find a second. And ultimately, I'll still give them the 1-goal margin.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think there's not much Burnley can do. I think Sunderland just don't really give away opportunities as a team. Right? It feels like even when they do, they just recover the ball so quickly because, man, the fans are so difficult. It is really a true 12th man. Like, this is really textbook what we mean when we say a 12th man through the home pitch. And so, yeah, I mean, I just don't see Burnley scoring a goal at all. I think Sunderland do not really need to create all that much. Just one scrappy goal, maybe it's a throw-in, maybe it's a long ball that happens to luckily get piled around in the box in some way. But this just feels textbook. Sunderland would know.
Yeah. Okay, a bit of a longer video, I suppose, this one, because we have had quite a lot to cover in terms of the last 2 weeks. But yeah, thank you everyone for sticking around. Hope you enjoyed. Let's see. Usually I do ask this at the end of a video, but Darian, any certain matches you're interested in watching for this week?
Well, I will definitely say that I want to see what happens United vs Fulham, because that's the big question mark right now, I think. How legit is Carrick ball? How consistent is it?
Can he manage the mid-table teams?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll say I will definitely. I have to watch Liverpool Newcastle, but I do think it will be a decently interesting game. It's like just a mid off, pretty much. Maybe not a mid off. Maybe just a shit off.
Okay.
Who will be more shit in this game? I think that is, like I said earlier, like our flaws will stand out more than our strengths, and that'll go for Newcastle as well. So if people want to hate watch somebody, whether that be us, the defending champions who are down in the dumps, or the Oil Club, feel free to watch that match.
I would also I think if you want to hate watch Arsenal, I think this might be a match where something interesting could happen.
That could, yeah, that's true. They are kind of shaky right now, so this would not be. This would be a good time for an upset. Yeah. Okay, so those are our recommendations, I guess. But I mean, if you want to do multi-watch, put a bunch of streams on at once, feel free to do so. We are happy for people to impart more ball knowledge onto themselves, right? That is our goal with this channel. And with that said, yeah, we hope to do that again in our next episode. So thank you everyone for coming, and we will see you all soon next week for another set of CoDaKrew predictions. Have a good one.
See ya.